for, well, essentially, for a long time, before the past month, a lot has changed for me in the past month. I had a lot of fear, and it was fear of my own emotions. I remember times when they just seemed like an impenetrable bubble of confusion to me, and now, like, for the first time since I can clearly remember, I genuinely feel like I'm at peace with them. I feel like I can say I understand how I feel, or at least I have the willingness to introspect, and I I think you changed that for me. I think it was you who made me look at myself again and made me stop feeling ashamed of core parts of who I am. And I alluded to this in our Skype conversation yesterday, but I'll go into more detail. I think it's safe to say that I connect with you like I have connected with no one. I'm willing to tell you things that I've literally told no one. The stories of what it was like in my head as a child. Well, no one, not even my mom knows that. But you do, and I feel safe telling you. I feel empowered to have you in my life. I feel the strength and confidence to do things that I may never have attempted before, and it's not about you having co-founded a company at age 16. That is certainly a lot of fun to tell my friends about. It's not that. It's that with you, I feel a kind of validation that I have not felt in a long time, possibly forever. So I didn't go into all the details, but to summarize, between ninth grade, when I first came out, and sophomore year of college, a series of things happened that they slowly destroyed me. They made me lose like 95% of any sense of worthiness I had. Like literally, I lost. There was a period where I lost everything except for the fact that I was still vaguely good at academics. Everything else about me, it was torn down, and fundamental things about my personality were turned into things that I was ashamed of. And yes, I learned from those incidents, and yes, I became better at hiding my emotions when appropriate, and yes, I became better at functioning within the unspoken expectations of society. But on some level, I also became terrified of looking within myself. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I think that's a fairly accurate description. Because there were things about me that honestly they were not going anywhere. They were just deeply woven into just my core personality, and I had concluded that they were flaws. And I sent you a poem about this, and by the way, poetry itself, I'm not, for the past 6 years until I met you, writing poetry was something I was ashamed I had the urge to do. Forget actually writing the poem. I was ashamed that I felt the desire to write poetry. I hope that gives you a sense of just how perverse everything had become for me. Because I feel emotions very strongly. I know that people who knew me as a kid would not have realized this, and even people who know me now, I'm quite introverted. But on some level, this introversion is a consequence of feeling emotions very strongly. It's because if I get too close to too many people, it becomes overwhelming for me, because I'm actually just a very sensitive person, and I'm also I'm intense by nature. But God, it's almost embarrassing to say that, because when I expressed this intensity in the past, I just got told I was too dramatic. And, there's... In fact, Sophie also told me, or alluded to this. Yeah, actually, no, she straight up called it dramatic. Like, when I didn't tell you exactly what happened in that conversation, but, like, it just keeps happening, all around me. And, there's kind of... that's pretty much the worst way to just destabilize the sense of self of someone who experiences these events and these interpersonal connections as acutely as I do. It's just, I just dismiss these very real sensitivities as histrionics. And then what can I say to that? I mean, like, everybody around me seemed to be in agreement that you're too dramatic. Your feelings are just bullshit. And it just happened over and over again. So of course I concluded that I was the problem. I pushed everything I felt down. I numbed my experience of the world. And, I resisted every strong impulse, every urge, all those tendencies. My core nature. I fought it because I came to distrust my feelings, and I just attempted to blind myself to the things that were going on under the hood. And of course I hurt people. And of course I was terrible at communicating my feelings because I had just completely lost touch with what they were. There were times when I'm like, Avanti, what are you feeling? And I couldn't figure it out. It was just a mess. Because I just learned this reflex of, like, you feel something, shut it down. Oh, just turned into this, like, impenetrable bubble of confusion. That's the word for it. And, I became incapable of proper introspection, because to introspect is to give your feelings a voice. And I had concluded that my feelings were wrong. And I told you that writing those pages for you, those handwritten pages, it's the most healthy introspection that I had done in a long time. I wasn't lying. And, the fact that they were handwritten, the last time I did something like that, it went so badly. I felt so ashamed. And even as I wrote those pages for you, a part of me was just rolling its eyes at how hokey and overly sentimental it all looked. But I told that part of me to shut up because it had had its day in court and it had failed to deliver. And I just feel like I spent the past 5 years or more, 7 years, 9 years, learning all the wrong things about how to cope with my emotions. There was just time to give something else a go. So I just thought I'd learn from you. Yeah. You. Because, I mean, well, you definitely do some things right. And I beheld you, kind of, and you showed me some emails that you'd sent to your friends, and I'm like, my first impulse was just like, oh my god, she sounds exactly like me, and oh, she's gonna, like, learn that this is just bullshit, this is too dramatic. Like, my impulse was to tell you to shut yourself down the way I had told myself to shut myself down, and I stopped myself because I'm like, this is not that route did not take me anywhere good. I kept hurting people, and I had no clarity on my internal state. So I basically pressed reset because you're a brilliant person, very sharp, very intelligent, and I think you have an understanding of yourself and a handling of emotional situations. I mean, of course, there are times when you mess up. There are times when I mess up. We can point out those times to each other. But on some level, it seemed like you were doing something better than I was doing it. At least you had the bravery to tell me about how you felt. I couldn't bring myself to tell you that. And it's because you were brave enough to like start that conversation that we're here. We wouldn't have gotten here otherwise. Yeah, I mean, like I told you, like despite how I felt about you, my impulse was to shut it down, and I actually told a friend I was supposed to break it off. I'm really glad I didn't. Because you're definitely doing some things right that I was doing wrong. So I decided to learn from you. And, around you, I see in myself a potential I've never seen before. I see a worthwhile human being, more stable, more mature, more alive. I think you bring out the best version of me than I can like easily recall. It might be right to say that you bring out the best version of me I have ever experienced, and I'm no longer ashamed to admit that I feel, because you too feel, and you made me understand that feelings were not the problem. The problem was that my feelings were misunderstood, and of course part of that was my fault. I need to pay better attention to the audience on which I'm like expressing these emotions and tune it accordingly, but the feelings themselves, they're nothing to be ashamed of. And know this, no matter what happens between us or where we end up, you have changed me in a way I won't forget, not ever. In the short time that I've known you, you've helped me heal. It's like a huge weight has just been lifted, and I have the confidence to revisit situations that once terrified me. And I'm not just like painting like dramatic strokes and blah 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 poetry. No, I actually am thinking of a specific example. So I mentioned that sophomore year at MIT was rough. There was someone who graduated when I was a sophomore from MIT, so that was 3 years ago. And she's now doing a PhD at Stanford. Before I met you, I was very seriously considering not attending a single LGBT event at Stanford because I was just terrified of running into her. Someone from 3 years ago. I'm not terrified anymore. You've put me in touch with myself, and because of that, I feel a kind of strength I never knew I had. So thank you.